Hello everyone. Welcome. My name is Priya Patra, and I am the host of this event today. I will say hostess, of course. I am also the Vice President Outreach of the PMI Mumbai chapter. But before we get started, some housekeeping rules. This meeting has been recorded, and if you are uncomfortable in any ways, you may choose not to attend. Else, you are welcome to continue. And we would love you all to continue here. Please make sure that your mic is on mute during the session. Your noise making devices are put on silent mode. Very important. And last but not the least, everyone here in this event are speaking on their individual capacity. Our views do not represent our organizations in any ways. So with this, it gives me immense pleasure to launch our webinar under Saksham Samarth Kitty in collaboration with Kutch Yuvak Sangh. So it's all about gearing up, tear down the third wave and related to mental as well as personal preparations. It is about facing the future on a bold, healthy, and a positive note. But again, before we get started, a little more about what Saksham Samarth initiative is all about. And you must be wondering, what is this? Well, this is our social good initiative by PMI Mumbai chapter. And if you see on your screen, we are aligned to UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And what we have chosen out of all these 17 goals is the quality of education. And we truly believe uh, quality of education can definitely make someone Saksham as well as Samarth. And with this, I would like to take uh, take this opportunity to talk about the agenda of today's session, the meet and greet, which is already done, and I've given you a brief of Saksham Samarth as well. Now I will invite Rahul Dedia to talk a little bit about Kutch Yuvak Sangh. So Rahul, if you're there, please unmute yourself and tell us what is Kutch Yuvak Sangh is all about. Rahul, can you hear us? All right, I think Rahul is having a bit of a
Just
problem
got
there.
connected. Yeah, I just
Oh,
got connected.
yes. Yeah,
Just
Rahul,
a
go
minute.
ahead.
Actually, Sunilji was on the other line. I'm on the same system.
Yes.
Hello, friends. I am very happy to introduce ourselves to the PMI group. I am Rahul Dedia, and we run an organization called Kutch Yuvak Sangh. We are live. This organization is a charitable organization formed in 1988 by a group of young Kutchi youths. The main objective of this group was bring in development in Kutch, associating Bombay together. So we are live in Kutch and Bombay. In Kutch, we run 5 different schools. Around 1,800 to 2,000 kids are learning with us, ranging from younger ones till 12th. And the results are phenomenal. Understanding it's a rural area where we're running the schools. So we have schools in Kutch, Bhuj, Bidra, Sisa, a new school which has been adopted in recent times. And in Bombay, we have different shakas, wings, you can say, as PMI has different wings. So we have 21 wings in Bombay, ranging right till Palghar in the western area, the central area right till Ambernath, and in Harbour till Alibag. And a lot of youngsters, youths involved here, and multiple different social related activities going on out here. And this is the first initiation we had with PMI. We are glad to get associated with PMI, a professional group. And this
Okay.
event which is there, so we forward to it as a guiding force to the public, because right now it is the need of the hour to stay calm and just get composed of what to do, what not to do. Back to you, Priyaji. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rahul, for that crisp brief about Kutch Yuvak Sangh. Really appreciate that what you all are doing with the youth of today. And with this, we will move on to the webinar of the evening today. Webinar by Dr. Deepa Vide. A little about Dr. Deepa. Deepa is a vice president. She leads training, quality process improvement at IKS Health. She's a healthcare domain expert with over 2 decades of experience in consulting, training, operations, and she's proficient in clinical medicine, and of course, project management in healthcare information technology. Her expertise lies in understanding the current as well as evolving healthcare, and we know how it has evolved in the last 2 years, I would say. And with 20 plus years of experience in clinical medicine, she also specializes in pediatrics and more. I can go on for the entire day talking about Dr. Deepa and her amazing profile, but I will stop here. Wait a second. Before I stop, I would like to introduce one more unique hobby that Deepa has. Uh, it is called Farm to Fork series. And I will ask Deepa to say a little more about her hobby, Farm to Fork, and take it all away. So, Deepa, over to you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, first of all, thank you, PMI Mumbai chapter. And I'm also very happy to have started to interact with Rahul from Kutch Yuvak Sangh, and very generous of Priya to have invited and requested me to speak at this event. It's indeed a real pleasure for me, but more that I see it, it's such a honor for me to be a part of your initiative, because at the end of the day we all are for something that we can help others. And I remember my days when I had both. I had an opportunity to become an engineer, and I used to have this MPBC, so maths, biology, physics, chemistry. I could take both. And my parents are doctors. We stay in Hyderabad. We are from Pune and Mumbai, actually. My husband is from KM. And then we stay in Hyderabad for the last 40, 50 years now. But when it came to actually looking at taking engineering and medicine, and I had an opportunity for both, for some reason, one day when it just I had to put in papers, I said, maybe I'm just made for healthcare. And that was my calling. I just, till that last minute, I was debating, maybe I would be a better engineer, maybe I like maths better. But something in me told me that my calling is just with being with patients, just trying to make an impact on their health, at least try to. And that's where I'm today. So Priya, thank you so much. And on my hobby of Farm to Fork, well, I would like to give a little bit of a story here. My father, he's a orthopedic surgeon. He's 86 as of now, and we have a house in Hyderabad, and we have a small garden. And my mother, she's 81. So whenever last 30 years, I've seen that they would grow everything in the garden, and my mother always cooked what was grown in the garden. So we have never eaten anything that was not grown in the garden, and always that has been the case. So somewhere I was used to it. One day, couple of years back, when my mother had started to show signs of dementia, my father was already feeling, taking that toll with my mother. She wasn't able to cook. And one day he just told me, Deepa, I said, what happened to our garden? Why aren't you putting anything? There's nothing in the garden. He said, who is there to cook, Deepa? So the moment I heard that, it was a calling for me, and it was a wake-up call. I said, that's not fair. I mean, my parents at the age of 86 and 81, and he really loves the garden, and my mother looks forward to those dishes. That day I took it on myself, and I felt it will make an impact on her dementia. And that's where I felt it was a need. So what I do is I restarted the whole gardening project. My father started taking a lot of interest. In fact, now I shoot some small videos of him cutting some of those vegetables and actually admiring them. I learned a lot in the process because he teaches me what to do and what not to do. My mother is not in the condition, but she admires when I prepare. And I again eat everything that is only grown in my garden. So that is my farm, and I get it to fork, and I just simply love it. I want to make it as, like I said, maybe an enjoyment, maybe something around uh, to help me work towards this. Maybe cook fusion foods. I've traveled so many places now. I want to introduce a lot of those fusion foods. My son is a food scientist, and he has now started taking interest in it. So it's more or less like a family hobby, and we thoroughly enjoyed. Thanks, Priya, for bringing that, uh, allowing me to speak about it. So we'll go ahead. Priya, shall we go ahead with the demo? Yes. Please let me know when you are able to see my screen. Can you see my screen, Priya?
Yes.
Okay. So again, glad to be with you all over here. And the next few sessions that we are going to talk about, or about 45 minutes that we are going to be here, I would like to make this time that you all have spared on a weekend, and that too at 7 o'clock, as interesting, as enriching, and as informative as possible. So I would like you all to note down some of the points that you have in mind. I would also like to tell you that I am a physician, and basically I'm a pediatrician and a neonatologist. And the last 20 years now, I'm also a project manager. So I'm also a project manager of my patients. While I don't necessarily see active patients now, but my husband sees, he has an active clinic, and I do visit the clinic. I take care of some of the patients if need be, when there is a lot of crunch. But more or less, I keep in touch with the clinical medicine just for the work that I'm doing professionally. That's really the point from where I get a lot of clinical material that I'm going to today talk to you all. I'm also involved with my Gandhi Medical College alumni group, which is in Hyderabad, which is the government medical college, maybe equivalent to any of the government medical colleges across India. And this is where we do a lot of outreach programs, for example, visiting the COVID patients. And actually, more than visiting the COVID patients, it is how we can support our fraternity. For example, a lot of my students, a lot of my friends who are currently working in Gandhi Osmania hospitals here, they are actually at the front end of the COVID, whatever way we call. So we do a lot of work for them, and that is how I get involved. So just in case you are thinking, what is my knowledge? What is my knowledge base on which I'm going to talk? This is my choice. So we'll move forward. Again, thanking you. These are my views. Some of them, if I will try my best to explain. I want to keep to the theme of our today's webinar, which is health and wellness. Now, one point I would like to make it very clear, though I'm a doctor and I know I have treated lots of COVID patients, at this point, I'm going to refrain from talking anything about treatment, because that's not even ethical, and that's not even fair on my part, and it's not fair on your part as well. So what I would like to do is that if you have any specific questions for me, you could always shoot them across, but I would like to refrain from any specific clinical care or clinical facts that related to medications or anything. I'm definitely going to cover a lot of COVID from the clinical standpoint and keeping health and wellness. So while some of my slides may look a little bit more generic, what I will try and do is keep to this central theme of health and wellness. I'm going to have some slides which are going to talk a little bit about the context, a little bit about the clinical symptoms. And again, my dimension would be about the wellness, because I know this webinar is about the future. And I know this webinar is about how are we going to leap into the future? What are those points that we need to work? And all of us are working, either professional or personal. So how do we maintain that health to leap into the future? So I'm going to keep to that as much as possible. You would still see me talking one or 2 points from here and there. And then if we have, then we'll have some questions that will be coming from your side. If you have any specific case that you would like to, or you would like to talk about an interesting anecdote that you would like to, then we'll take up those questions. So does that sound okay, Priya? Are we good to start? Okay, thank you. So here is we'll start with a poll. Priya, do you want to go ahead with a poll? So please go to menti.com and use the code 17448704 and please answer this question.
And the poll is on. So let me see whether people are taking or not. So far, no. Come on, gentlemen and ladies, please take the poll. Okay, people are saying no. Deepa, you want me to share my screen and look at the poll? I don't have the sharing rights as well. Let me, well, I don't have the sharing rights.
Yeah,
so
no,
it's
you
okay.
can just tell me what is the consensus.
Yeah, so I see 11 people who are saying no. And yeah, now it is 15. Everyone is saying no. Not a single person said yes so far. Oh, we are not thinking positively, I think. 21 saying no, and we have 97 participants right now on this session. 22 no, 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 no. I don't know why it is no, but it is. Yeah, it's still no. 25 of them said no. So we will actually wait for 50% of the people on the call to take this poll before we stop this poll. And 27, yes, still no, not a single yes, Deepa.
Okay, so do we take the answer as no?
31 are saying no. I think it is no. How can we, make people think positively and think that yes, it will get over soon? We'll have to think about that. 31, yeah, I think the answer is no.
Okay, so I think the way it has been, I think the way everybody's interpreting, are we today out of the pandemic? Is the pandemic behind us? Have we just got out of the pandemic and are we free and are we just going back to pre-December 2019 era?
Let me stop you.
Probably.
There is one person who said yes, the pandemic is over. Just one.
Okay, so I think the question, the way I think everybody is reading it, and I think even I also read it, that are we out of the pandemic? Are we going back to pre-December 2019 era? Probably no. So it is that we are still in, and everybody is quite right, whoever is, that we are still in the pandemic. So pandemic is, like we said, an endemic with a passport. I don't know whether you have heard this word. Is a pandemic is an endemic with a passport. So whenever a disease which is endemic, which is staying, and it is present in a local area and moves across the globe, it becomes a pandemic. So yes, we are not out of the pandemic. So COVID-19 pandemic has changed our lives. Would you not believe that? I mean, it just got to reset the world, and it almost all of us are used to this word reset, because now with the online work, we really use that. And the reset word now is going to be probably with our health also. Like, I now see so many of my colleagues who have just been thinking about what they want to do. The calling or this resetting of the whole business has given them a different calling, and quite a few of them have quit their job, and actually they say, you know what, we want to go back to agriculture. We want to go back to helping the underprivileged. That's my calling. And I think the pandemic allowed us to reset our thinking, and it just made us believe that which world are we living in. So I just felt like this particular picture, and I really loved the picture for the symbolic part of it. And what I see is that the future is uncertain. Like you all said, we're not out of the pandemic. There is a social scarring around it. I mean, people feel that, oh, COVID ka case hai. Oh, there's a COVID case around. And then initially, last year it used to be the whole buildings getting sealed and the area getting sealed. And then you had the lockdown, then you had the migration, you had the unemployment. And then the whole economic turndown and the health crisis and the crisis related to the healthcare resources. And it all flattened the curves, everything, the The recoveries were becoming very difficult. There was a social and physical distancing. We never even heard that word, right? Sometime we probably heard that word about 2-3 pandemics back, like smallpox or maybe SARS or MERS, but never was this word so popular that today you can't even move a screen without hearing that word. So social, physical distancing, new vaccines. At that point of time, even the vaccines weren't there. And people, I remember a meme which showed like it was raining vaccines and people are all looking at the sky and looking at all those needles coming down as though it was vaccines. And new treatment. So, people started thinking, is there a drug that is going to help us get cured of this? Is there a particular steroid? Is there a particular medication which a company can quickly create? Uh, then there were waves. So we all thought we were done with the wave, first wave, that was, but then came the second, and we are now looking at a third, and some countries already are in the third wave, and we don't even know how many days. And then you all started looking at this COVIDometer. I don't know whether that word rings a bell, but COVIDometers, like every day, like, the cricket score, do you remember? Or something like, Aaj kitne deaths hai? How many deaths are there today? Oh my God, which state is showing? So, the household changed. I mean, we all saw this change in our household. Our children were looking at us and wondering, what is my, you know, parent doing? I mean, they just got so obsessed with all of this. So today's few topics that I'm going to touch base are, and while we'll talk about it, are first is pandemic status, like we said, the variants, what you all are hearing about alpha, gamma, beta, and I just saw a very nice joke. It said, at the rate at which people are moving around and you are having the variants, you would slowly have sine, cos, tan, and multiple clinical equations to say that that is the current variant, because that is how it will algebraically go up. What is the research in progress? Because again, I want to keep to the theme. Theme is about future. So I want to give you all idea about what are the research, which areas the research is happening. Because once there is a research that is there, you know that there is something that's going to come out of that research, good or bad. Then we will talk about what you all already know, which is health in a pandemic. You know about diagnosis or changing symptoms, social distancing, masks, sanitizers, hand washing, nutrition, diet. And the reason, again, I thought I will bring these points while I talk is because of the wellness component. Then what are the requirements, as in well ventilated rooms, regularly cleaning your hands and coughing into a bent elbow, and a lot of other measures that are going to help us be safe and keep our community safe. We will talk about special categories: infants and children, elderly and frail, cancer, immunocompromised, chronic diseases, obesity. And then touch on medications, therapeutic or prophylactic. Prophylactic is when you give a medication to stop a disease or prevent a disease. Therapeutic means you give a medication to treat a disease. That's the difference. And vaccinations. So these are my general points. I would like to touch base. I don't have a specific order in which I will be talking, but these are the overall points, if that's okay with you. I don't know how many of you have seen, but I follow this very regularly. This is the World Health Organization Coronavirus Dashboard. Now, what World Health Organization is like a keeper, like a World Health Organization. They are the keepers of the COVID disease registers, COVID disease statistics. And this disease, as you all know, was the first learned from Wuhan in 31st December 2019. And from then on, you had a trajectory of this disease which moved from a cluster pneumonia. Somebody said they're different. They're different. There's something about this pneumonia which is different. And then it moved on into the whole world. So this particular map shows you that you are almost having 188 million confirmed cases. This is as of 16th July. This is updated on a daily basis. The global count, please note, this is not only India, this is a global count, and of confirmed cases. Confirmed cases means they are confirmed by the RT-PCR test. I'm sure all of you must have learned all these new terms now. That is RT-PCR. And then you have 4 million deaths so far. So this particular pandemic has caused the whole world about 4 million deaths, which are reported to WHO. The reason I'm saying 4 million is only reported. There could be more which are not reported, and those happen sometimes from a different sections and they don't get to the World Health Organization. So the deaths could be more than 4 million. Now, another statistics to say is as of 14th July, there are 3 billion vaccine doses that have been administered. I'm monitoring this from like day one, I would say from January of 2020, maybe March of 2020, I started monitoring it. And you never had a vaccine because you never had that. But steadily over the last 6 months, I'm seeing that the number of vaccine doses are increasing, and that is definitely contributing towards the way the countries are seeking freedom, and the wellness component of the countries is increasing. So anybody who has not seen this COVIDometer, please go to the World Health Organization website and please check it. It is the most authentic number that I am known of as of now. Either this, I've given you some references, I will show those references. Now coming to India. So all of you have seen, I personally look at this website, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. And this allows me to see what is the trend. And if you see that you have about 4 lakh active cases, and then the discharge number of cases are also very high because we have been seeing almost 95% improvement in the symptoms, and then more than 95%. But however, the deaths are also high, which is at one point stands at 1.33%. When the COVID started, the death rate was almost going to 3 to 6%. 3 to 6%. Then the death rate came down, and then we saw a very high death rate in the second wave that happened sometime in March or April. Now, what is also important is the total vaccination. So you see that you have a good amount of vaccinations that have started to look up, and now even in your states, I don't know, all of you who have joined belong to which country or which particular state, you see that the state governments are taking a lot of measures to make this make vaccine very freely available and also very regulated, and also most of the time people are giving a very good positive feedback about the way the vaccine is managed. Now, I wanted to bring your attention to this to show that just a spike, again, this is, whenever we see this, you see that around 31st December, around the New Year time, we had touched low, right? And all of us were very happy that, oh my God, India really made it. I mean, we really took all these measures which allowed us to like really crack the disease. But for again, the spike took up, and then we steadily saw Mumbai got affected first, and then we started hearing the news that there are lots of cases, 70,000 cases, and it steadily started increasing till at the peak of around mid-April, May, that we knew that it was very high. Now again, if you see that steadily, it is the number of cases is coming down. And I wanted to draw your attention. The reason is to this is that, are we never going to see these spikes again? Are we going to say that once it remains flat, is it always going to be flat? Well, we ideally would like to, but it is not going to be that case. So some point, if you see 28 June to 29 September, around, I would say August, September, there was a peak again. That was the first time, right? The virus was moving. So that is a little flattened one, then it came down. So you are going to see this. And it is not new with just COVID. If you have seen such waves with earlier pandemic, if you take MERS, SARS, HIV, you take Ebola, you take swine flu, you take smallpox, you take anything, Spanish flu, anything, all these viruses, all these pandemics have undergone lots of waves. So this is, we have to expect. Now, again, coming back to a point, what is the wellness component, and what in the future that you knew that there are going to be waves, and what would be the spike of the waves? That is important, and that is actually in our hands. Okay, so now we see another poll coming up. Do you think there will be more variants of the coronavirus? Would you like to take a poll?
Yeah, It's on now. Let me see what the answers are. Oh, 9 people say yes, and 1 person is saying no. 2 are saying not sure.
Yeah,
If you can stop sharing, I can share my screen so that we can see the. Just for a second, yeah.
yeah, Priya, stop sharing.
Still, it is not there. Okay, all right. Looks like it's not working. Share content. I'm unable to share. That's fine. You can keep sharing. And I see that 24 people are saying yes. There would be multiple variants. 1 says no, and 3 of them say not sure.
Okay, we'll just give another maybe about 10 seconds in case anybody wants to answer.
Yes, so 31 people have already taken the poll. I would have expected few more people to take because we have 105 people today right now on the call. So 28 yes, still only 1 person says no and 3 says not sure. Still people think they are very confident that there will be multiple variants that would be coming in soon.
Okay, so do we close the poll? I think yes. The answer is
Yes,
actually yes. Answer is actually yes. You will have.
Okay.
And there are likelihood of and there here is the answer. I just wanted to read out. Now, if you see a variant, first of all, let's just understand the reason why we are understanding this. Again, we're looking at future, right? So when you think about the future and we are what we are today and COVID-19, we have to first, any virus mutates, any virus will change, any virus always changes. So when the virus goes from a state A into a state B, this is called a variant. So you call a variant A, then the virus changes its state. STAT state. State by mean, I don't mean the state as in a geographical state, the phenotype, the way in which it is, right? It changes and it goes into another state. Now that is called B state. Now, the moment it goes into the B state, what we do is it is either called a concern problem or it's an interest problem. So what is the definition of concern is that this virus, suppose it infected 10 people and it started infecting 100 people, it's a matter of concern. Suppose there was a death because of this state A virus for one patient and then suddenly the number of deaths spiked to 10, it is a matter of concern. Now, what is interest? Interest is when the virus changes in a way internally, and when the laboratory people are actually looking at it, that suggests that it is going to cause a lot of increase in the transmission. So this is interest and this is concern. So if you see alpha, beta, gamma, delta variants are all of concern, and eta, iota, kappa, lambda are interest, but it means that they can also change to concern. I wanted to be very clear. This is as per World Health Organization. So sometimes, I feel that it is good to understand a little bit of basics because then you can actually partner into the theory of it and understand and maybe even take it back to your family and say that because your family is listening to you, your family is also listening to social media, and your family is a part of any other congregation. You probably can help them understand, oh, there was something taught about it. Let's go and look at it. Now, if you see B1 1.1.7 or the alpha variant was first detected in southern England in 2020, greater risk of ICU admissions. This is very important. So, and 28-day mortality. This every variant, if you see alpha, beta, gamma, delta, kappa, lambda, they have some or the other way in which they are different. Now, if you see, go to the beta variant, what is the point? It's first appeared in South Africa and potential to reinfect individuals. That means an individual has been infected, again reinfect, who have recovered from the earlier state. So this is very important. That person thinks I've recovered, I had, but then if you have a beta variant, it will go and reinfect that person. And it may be resistant to vaccine, some vaccines. Now you go to gamma variant, US in January 2020. tends to escape from immune responses of the body. This is again pronounced transmissibility. That means this is not now talking about reinfection or vaccines. It is saying that it is going to be improving, I mean, it increased transmission. That means transmission from one person into another. Now you take Delta. Delta, all of us know, right? We have just experienced highly contagious state, and vaccination is the key. Kappa variant, documented in India in October 2020, is double mutant virus. So virus mutated once, changed it once, and another once. So I wanted to bring out this slide to you that there is a proper catalog and documentation and every tracking of where the variant is coming, where is it being detected, and what are the properties that are changing. So either it is catching hold of more and more people, or is it reinfecting people already who are infected, or is it causing more of admissions to the hospital, or is it not going to take up vaccine, whatever the case is. Now let's look at this, because the reason I put this is for you all to easily think about how now should we look at this disease. So I just felt this is my model. So just what I remember, like I like to remember. First is test, right? 5 T's as a life cycle. So you know that there is a patient, or let's say a person who has a symptom of COVID. So first thing that you think is that we do a test. Now I'll tell you what are the different types of tests. The first thing that, and now with test centers that are opened up, you know that first is the test. Second is treat. That means you have medications, maybe you have some of the symptomatic medications such as Dolo, paracetamol that all of us are used to. So treat. Third is track. What does the track means? Where is the contact? Where did you know? Very quickly when you come across a patient, the first thing is you feel is, which social gathering did I go to? Did this person go to the office? Did this person come in contact with somebody who had those symptoms, right? And then track the preparedness. You also, Priya, just one point, it started to rain heavily here. Just in case my network comes up, I'll just move to the mobile network. So there may be a slight drop, just giving it. So second part of it is track. We are talking about track. Is measuring the healthcare preparedness. So we want to say, is Mumbai ready for it? Are you tracking that? How many hospitals are ready if at all a second wave comes? Fifth is train. No, sorry. Fourth is train. What do you mean by train? You have to train multiple people. We are here in the industry where now wellness comes in picture. Maybe people who are suffering with the disease, people who lost their lives, people who have disaster preparedness, and also people who need to be certified to train the patients or the healthcare staff. So this is all about training that needs to be given. And for example, mental wellness or psychological wellness, it's not easy to take a person out of a psychological depression caused by COVID. And I have seen so many cases myself. It's not easy because it's a prolonged therapy. You have to talk to the patient and multiple times. So you have to get yourself trained or train the staff to be able to do that. And that is all about how will you maintain the state of wellness and health to these people. And then the last is transform. So how do you overall transform the entire community that you are in? How do you transform the culture of the do you always think how do you transform the medical billing that you have? How do you transform the public health system? Now everywhere you see people are the social media is bombarding us with the sanitizers, the way we have to protect ourselves. Then there are lots of articles which are written about COVID and how all these new variants are coming and how the vaccines are impacting or are not impacting. So, and how is the overall culture of a community coming? That's transforming. Today we are here, and I'm so happy to see PMI Mumbai chapter along with the Kutch Yuvak Sangh who are here to transform the COVID culture. We are not here to stigmatize it. We are here to give empathy. We are here to educate our youth and educate all these adopted villages that we were just talking about, Rahul was talking about. And I'm sure you will slowly have some of these small educational materials and small handouts given to those who are in the schools to transform the entire culture that is related to COVID. And kudos to PMI Mumbai chapter and Priya and her team and Kutch Yuvat Sangh to be doing that actually. So this is the last one, transform. So always remember you have test, treat, track, train, transform. It just makes you remember that way. Now we'll go to the first, just roughly touching on some of these. You already have heard this, that fever, dry cough, fatigue, and the moment person comes and says that, you know what, I'm not able to speak. And then the question you all generally ask is, are you able to smell? Are you getting the smell? You know, it's very natural because those are the initial symptoms. So the person shows very fatigue, maybe he has had a contact, there is a fever, there is dry cough, and then these are very common symptoms. Severe symptoms of COVID-19 include breathlessness. So, you know, person has breathlessness, loss of appetite, there's a confusion, and there may be persistent pain or pressure in the chest and very high temperature. So maybe 101, 102, and sometimes even more. So these are, when these start coming up, generally there is a lot of panic. There is a lot of, everybody is now quite aware that there's something dramatically going wrong. And you need to seek the medical care immediately whenever you have fever, cough, associated with shortness of breath or breathing difficulty. That is very important. Either you have a chest pain or a pressure, loss of speech, loss of movement, or there is a confusion, or the patient is unable to recognize. This is very important. The reason I brought this slide up is because from a medical standpoint, I wanted to let you all know that it is very necessary that all people in that community, in the house, in the family, are aware of the symptoms, including a child. Even to a child, we have to give him a small handout in the school. They have, because you never know, the child may come home and see any of his grandparent or anybody just showing these symptoms. The least the child could do is say, you know what, I need to call my doctor uncle very quickly. And this is how we will change the culture and attitude of entire family, and we will protect ourselves. So the long-term effects could be fatigue. Some of you probably have experienced COVID in the last 1 year, because there are many people now who have experienced COVID in some form or the other. You still probably feel fatigue. You feel like you have a dry cough. You probably have joint pains. You probably just don't feel normal at all. You have headaches, you have migraine, occasional cough, and these are long-term effects of COVID-19. Now, if somebody asks me that, are these going to last forever? Maybe no. And nobody knows that, because this is the new disease and this is a pandemic that is still going on. So we need to know how many months, how many years will these symptoms be there. What is important for us here again is to understand the symptom that we are in. And how do you really fight the symptom? So suppose, let's say the person has fatigue. What are those measures that the person needs to take to come out of the fatigue? I think that is the point that I wanted to say. So just wanted to keep you all, just wanted to bring the slide to slightly touch base on the clinical presentations and what we as doctors see when we actually see the COVID-19 patient. Now, the second thing, like I told, test. So the first thing I said, test. So there are three types of tests. Okay. Now, three types of tests. Again, we're looking at how quickly can we do a test to know whether we really are suffering, or is that person really suffering with it, or is it a symptom. I just think about it, right? Before December 31st, 2021, were there no diseases? I mean, suddenly COVID has come and everything is blocked, right? Like, has stroke gone away anywhere? Has brain stroke gone away anywhere? Has diabetes gone away anywhere? Nowhere. All the diseases are still there, right? But what has happened? This has consumed our mind so much that we have forgotten about the earlier disease. The mind has been focused on this, and we think that the other diseases may not be as severe as this. So the first question that comes to our mind is, do I have this disease? Maybe I should just test myself. There are three types of tests that all of you should know. First test is is the patient having the exact same genetic material? Meaning, does the patient have COVID virus in his blood? And that is your RT-PCR test. And that is the test that all of the companies today require, or you want to travel, you require. Have you heard of RT-PCR test certificate required by the airlines? And you have to provide lots of RT-PCR certificates to many other places. So RT-PCR is very definitive test, and you take this swabs right from the nose and the mouth and actually need to test for the genetic material yourself. The second is whether antigen. So whether you have the outer proteins of the virus, is it there? Now this is just the antigen. This is not as sure as RT-PCR. It's not as definitive as RT-PCR, but it is better than nothing. So you could have that you might get the antigen test negative, but RT-PCR could be positive. Now the important part of this is how do you keep such people till you get the RT-PCR away from the rest of your family? Because you might have people who are diabetics, who are old, who are frail, who are small children. So it is very important. First is you have to do a test, and which type of test have you done? And second thing is how do you know that now you have lots of your doctors who are going to support you with the treatment. Not only that, you have all of this in the current Google, and Google, Dr. Google is also there who talks to us and who teaches us, and there are lots of blogs. There are lots of blogs that help us understand that, hey, you know what, I got tested with antigen testing and there is a positive and this test is positive. What do I do next? Thankfully, because of the rapid use of technology, we have lots of answers that we get. But I would suggest that we definitely consult your healthcare professional to just understand whether it is the right thing so that you are safe. And the last types of tests is about the antibody. What does that mean? So if a person has had a disease, his body fights it. And that body then creates these police forces called antibodies. So the third test tests about whether the body has the antibody. And if it is positive, it means you have the protection. Now, does it mean that if you have a small antibody, is it a protection? No. You need to have your police force and a certain strength, and that is given by your report. So you could still have antibodies which are not sufficient to stop another attack. So it is very important to know what is the level of these antibodies that are required. And today when the vaccine is given, it stimulates creation of antibodies. And like I said, this webinar is all about education. Like Priya said, the 17 UN goals, this is all about education. This is about spreading the word in the right way. It is about educating people in the right way. All the children, all of you who are attending the webinar, you could also pass on this information so that people are looking at the information and not getting carried away by what is in the social media. Now let's look at some of these points. Emergency support required. Now, so many times you would have seen that in your building, you would hear a sudden ambulance and you feel like you have seen that, somebody is taken and you're looking out from the window and trying to see, hey, what happened? Now, most of the time, these are the emergency support squads that are there, which are designated for COVID-19. What should we be doing? We should be we have the 1065, I think, which is the number for, it is the all over India number that you can dial if you know somebody is having a problem with COVID. And the doctors, if you are a doctor, you need to, even if you want to go and help the patient, you need to be in the complete gear. You should not, because you are still coming home and involving and meeting with your own family. So emergency support requirements are very important. Every household we encourage as doctors, we encourage that you keep the list of at least 2 COVID hospitals ready with you. So that at the time you have at least 1 ambulance number, 2 or 3 hospital numbers which are admitting COVID, so that in the last moment you don't need to worry. Sometimes we don't do this. The reason is we are so busy in our work and we always want to believe that this should not be our turn. I will not get affected. I'm absolutely fine. But my suggestion is we have this registry with us. The second thing is how can we protect from further surges? Now let us say we have already had the surge and we feel comfortable and you are also reading this social media post or you're looking at the COVIDometer and you find that the surge has come down. And I just showed you the slide where the surge has come down. But then are you going to be very comfortable saying, okay, I'm going back to my pre-era and I'm not? No, I think that is a very wrong way of doing, and that is going to be very, very risky way of. My suggestion is, as healthcare professionals, what we continue to say is about still believing that you need to be very, very careful for yourself and your family. So what should you be doing? First of all, accept that there will be a surge. See, we always want to defy our mind and say, no, everything has gone to normal. I don't think everything is normal. As healthcare professionals, we don't see that everything is normal. We are seeing lots of COVID cases coming even in children. As I am a pediatrician, I see lots of cases coming in children as well. Now, what we should do is, first of all, accept that we know there may be a surge to avoid public gatherings. Now, one thing that we want to do is we feel that last 6 months I've really not gone anywhere. I've not called my guests. I've not celebrated my son's birthday party. I think these still, I don't think we are in that phase where you could. Now, some of the countries are actually going in for smaller parties, especially if everybody there is vaccinated. So you have to say that everybody is vaccinated and they restrict the number. Now, this probably is done to be as safe as possible, but still not impact the social requirements of the community. It's still a safe norm, but I would still say old people, frail people, children, pregnant women should not attend this because it is still not proven that these people may not be impacted more. So it is, so first of all, practice social distancing. Do not go to these crowded places. Ensure that you are vaccinated. Now, one thing we should know is you can't get vaccinated in the morning and evening you go to this place. Remember that your body requires time to develop those antibodies, right? So give yourself at least 10 days after the last, at least to be on the safe side. And then if you want to attend a small gathering, maybe that's the time you want. The third thing is about wearing masks. So many people, all of us talk about it and all of us see that the masks are worn below the nose or below the mouth, and it's over here most of the time near the chin or at the, we call it a thyroid girdle or it is a neck girdle or, it's sitting here. But that's a wrong thing to do. Then we should not wear a mask. Then if we are wearing a mask, we have to wear it properly. We have to wear a mask that is absolutely must. And this is the biggest and the most important precaution we all have to take. And the last is hand washing. I think in somewhere in our Indian culture, we always have this, you come from outside, you leave your slippers, you wash your hands, change your clothes, and that is how, and I think did we anticipate corona? No, we didn't, right? But this is just the culture of ensuring that you don't get the dirt from outside. So these are the things that you should be doing actively. Now, if you ask me, Dr. Bide, do you have a medication? No, we don't. We don't have a medication to stop a surge. We don't have a medication that will say that you take like 50,000 doses of a medication is given and it will stop the surge. If you don't have. So I think it is very important, like I said, the vaccine, after that, these are the modalities you need to do. But first thing first, accept that, don't defy that, don't fight the system. That no, I'm a brave person. No, it doesn't happen. Your body is still a body. Second thing is working in the midst of pandemic. So many companies now have the work from home. Some companies might ask you to come back. Maybe they have some working agreement. You might have to come back. But it is this point that you need to know what is your vaccination status And the companies may have a different arrangement of working people, and the companies are expected to take the right precautions to ensure that their workforce is safe. And the workforce can ask that company, has a right to ask the company to show how safe they can be and how the arrangement is so that they are comfortable. So I would say that working is not impaired because now we are working from home, most of us. But even in the event that people might be asked to come to work from office, all the companies are taking necessary precautions to ensure that people are safe. Next is travel. So people think that can I travel? First, when last year, what we saw was people could not travel because everything was banned. But now travel has opened up. Now you still see that you need to be very careful. One, again, vaccination status. Sorry. One is the vaccination status. Two, what is the travel arrangement in the airport, your transit, your actual aircraft, and when you go to the other country, what are the norms? For example, quarantine norms, isolation norms. There is a difference between quarantine and isolation. So what are the quarantine norms? That you need to be in a place secluded for 7 to 14 days, and maybe after that, you still need to get your test done. And after the test, if it is negative, then you can mix and come inside the country. But it doesn't mean that you can't travel. Who cannot travel, and it is better not to travel, are people who are suffering with cancer, who do not have proper immunity, who are small children, pregnant women, diabetes, heart diseases. It's better they don't travel. But other people, if the travel permits, and only if necessary. Otherwise, people who are doing a travel for their joy, maybe it is a good time not to do that. As healthcare professional, I would say it is good to do. Now, if you say, how long could I wait? How many months do I need to wait? I don't have an answer. We just need to continue to watch the trajectory. Next, going to behavior and psychological health. One thing is which we have seen as doctors is most of us always look at a physical component of health. So if there is a fever, we will give a medication. If there is a chest pain, we will quickly admit. If there is a breathing problem, we will give oxygen. But what about the mind? How are we prepared to understand the fears, the anxiety? How are we prepared how to be mindful? And how are we prepared to be courageous? And how is our psychological health going to support us and our family? I think this is very important. First of all, this was never recognized as a very important component. Time has come and everybody now recognizes that COVID-19 just does not impact your body, it impacts your mind. There is a change in the behavior. It is the behavior in us and my behavior towards you. I need to change. I should not look at this COVID-19 patient as a person who is always going to infect me and not go near him. As a healthcare professional, I need to have empathy. I need to serve, and all of us also need to do that. Doesn't mean that you go next to the COVID-19 patient, but it means that you have to be mindful. Now, what are two things you have to remember? First thing is, how do you protect yourself? One thing is very important is breathing exercise. Because, like I said, first COVID-19 impacts the lungs because it is a virus that has gone through your nose and mouth, right? So first it goes and sits in your lung. Now, if you think you are not ventilating your lungs, and then remember that if you have a drainage water and it's there stagnated, there is going to be a breeding of mosquitoes, right? But if you keep opening those glasses and keep it dry, it's not going to do that. The mosquitoes will never have a place. Same thing. If you don't breathe out and breathe in, and you don't breathe out properly, and you don't ventilate, it gives a place for this virus to go and thrive there. Our suggestion is, as a doctor, do breathing exercise. If you are not doing it as of now, you should start. Do at least 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. The reason is twofold. One is the virus will not get a place because you are constantly breathing in and out. Second thing is your lungs will stay very agile. Third very important point is quit smoking. The reason is if there is smoking, then you are already having a compromised lung. At least this is a very good time to think about quitting smoking. And if somebody is smoking, better not go near that person because passive smoking is also very, very, very contagious. In fact, it is more. Fourth thing is have your rooms which are very well ventilated. It may have a couple of fans. Don't allow humidity to be there. Now, Mumbai is a place which is high in humidity. Today it's raining in Hyderabad. Right now I'm sitting, I think the humidity is like 80% right. It's very, very humid at this point of time. I think humidity also does not allow us to breathe. It's very, very important. And I think this is the core where you will not allow the virus to come in first place itself. You will actually nip it at the bud. And my request to all of you is to take these things very seriously. Another, this is all about yourself. Now, one thing which we probably have never done and taught is meditation. Now, meditation is important because it allows you to think rationally. You are already in throes of your family problems, your work, your COVID, what is happening around the world. Give some time for meditation. Even 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening is sufficient. Next point is about stigma and sympathy. COVID-19 is not leprosy. COVID-19 is not tuberculosis. COVID-19 is not HIV. COVID-19 is a disease which is a virus which is infecting your lungs, just like influenza. And I don't think there has to be any stigma towards it. You should not call that, there has to be empathy. You should not cast away the patient saying that, you know what, he's at COVID. Help him. Ask him to see a doctor or show him a place where quarantine centers are there. But show empathy. I think this is very important. So what can you do for yourself and what should you be doing for others? Second thing, what you can do for others, and I have done it myself, is keep these kits of maybe names of the doctors, names of hospitals ready. Because the person who has COVID is very, very confused and he doesn't know what to do. At that time, what I've done is I have like 100 pamphlets kept ready with me. The moment people say and I feel, I just quickly hand over the pamphlet. See, it's a small deed. It's a very small thing, but really helps that person a lot. The last point is about social media. All of us now have online and online work has increased and social media is bombarding us. 2 points about social media, boon and a bane. Now, boon, all of us know that it is giving us statistics, it is making us aware, it's giving us an impact. But what is not so good is it may not be an authentic information. So my request to all of you is to seek for authenticity. Do not, if you're already burdened with depression related to COVID, oh my God, there is a third wave, oh my God, second wave, so many people are dying. Maybe it's a time to go and seek an authentic information. And I think that is where you get from World Health Organization or CDC, which is what I have given, instead of believing on any social media. Because nowadays WhatsApp and so many of these continue to bombard, but it's nothing wrong about listening, but it's also good to be judicious about consuming the information. I wanted to drive your attention to this, that all of these bodies like Arogya Setu you have some of the Lancets and Walters and Kluwer and journals, which are constantly now World Health Organization. These people have apps and they have actually constantly giving us information that is more recent and more global and more authentic because it is curated. So this is very important from a communication standpoint, and I would encourage that since we live in a community, we have something like a dashboard, or even if in children or college students, it's very important to know what sort of communications are we actually dispersing. This slide is all about the workforce management. Now this talks about whenever there is a requirement and the surge comes in, and again we are talking about wellness, we are talking about future. Just look at this. I mean, even a hospital in New York hospital was turned into a field hospital. You have Reliance Industries speeding up. I mean, now this was a little older slide, but uh, many companies have now started to manufacture your masks, the ventilators, and so many things. Look at these masks and ventilators. You have lots of information that is available to doctors. And this is how you manage the workforce, and this is how you can seek for information. I also wanted to get your attention is all this is not going anywhere from a knowledge standpoint. The first and the most important knowledge keeper for this is World Health Organization. World Health Organization is keeping every bit of knowledge, information related to COVID-19. Just like polio, you'll remember polio disease. Now it's not there. It's not there. It's been eradicated. But in India, you do see. So global polio eradication is kept by Johns Hopkins. So these global bodies, they keep the information related to these diseases. Just like I said, the UK hospital has a coordinator and the World Health Organization is keeping. And what is the use of all this? They use this to sound the world and help us with information. So this is very important. I definitely wanted to bring you all because if you need any information related to talk to your family, talk to your team members, talk to your workplaces, this is going to be helpful. Now, like I told you at the beginning, where is the research happening? All of us are interested, like we said, what is in the future store for us? First is diagnostic, right? First, we want to know how do I quickly diagnose COVID-19? And if I quickly diagnose COVID-19, can I also quickly diagnose if I have a complication? Am I going to die? So that is the first diagnostic. Second thing is speed of diagnostic. Like I said, rapid test. Like for example, you want to go to a particular travel, then on the airport, can you do a test and travel? Or do you need to wait for 2 to 3 days to get the report? The third is surveillance. How is the coronavirus being moved into the community? Are the children getting infected more? Are the diabetics getting infected more? Are the heart disease? Are the pregnant women getting? Research is happening there. Now, another important part is impact on the healthcare workforce. People like us. See, before 31st December 2019, I was my body was different as a doctor. Because I've been seeing so many COVID patients now, what is the impact on myself and so many healthcare workforces? Do they require any specialized care? Do they require a specialized vaccine? Do they require any specialized medication? That is the direction of research. Neurological impact on your brain. Everybody knows there is an impact on lungs, but how many of us know there is impact on the brain and other parts of the body? And what impact will that have on the future life? That is where research is happening. Immune response. How quickly can your body produce antibodies? How quickly can your body produce those police forces? Then what are these structural genome? How is the virus changing? Research is happening there. Can you predict after 1 year which variant will be there? Research is happening on medications. You know steroids, you know the black fungus came in, then you know remdesivir. I think all of you know those names now. But what are the newer vaccinations? What are the population disparities? How many times you have heard that you know this group of people never had COVID or their COVID severity was less? Why? Are they different? Do they have some genetics differences? Then wellness. What is the psychological impact? What can we play? What role can we play here? Are there any different mental behavioral therapy? And how do you remove stress? Guys, this webinar is all about future. It's all about wellness. It's about understanding COVID. And we definitely need to know what are the different coaching programs, resilience programs, training programs that help us build this resilience. So research is happening at all these places. These are the references of, like I said, NIMHANS, World Health Organization, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So I wanted to just quickly go over this first slide again before I close this. And so wanted to touch base to see whether we covered everything. I know we are, Priya, are we doing good on time? Because just wanted to ensure that we are good.
Yeah, so I think a little late, but
Okay,
we are
yeah,
still
we'll
okay.
just go. Okay, so we talked about pandemic status, variants and their origin, research. We talked about all of these health in pandemic. We talked about special categories, like I said, they are more predisposed. We talked about medications, therapeutic like remdesivir or steroids, or you had the fungal infections to treat, and prophylactic once was known as hydroxychloroquine, but now it's not prophylactic. It does not prevent. And there is no prophylactic medication. And we talked about vaccinations, Covishield and Covaxin, which are in India. And there are many other vaccinations which are coming from outside of the world. So more to come on vaccinations. It will be an entirely new topic, but let's keep that we are leaping into the future with, I would say, we are a little cautious, but we are more prepared than what we were last year. The healthcare workforce is more prepared, patients are more prepared, and I'm very happy that organizations such as PMI Mumbai chapter and also the UX and is also more prepared. With that, Priya, I would like to come back to you.
So thank you, Dr. Vide. And this was really, really engaging. And to let you know that, we have a few questions, and I'm not sure whether, it looks like little more of a political questions rather than health question. The first question is COVID an engineered virus? I'm not sure whether you're in a right position to answer that. If you wish to answer, it is good. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question.
What is the question, Priya?
Is COVID an engineered virus?
Frankly speaking, I would like to respond it as we still don't know. Because
Okay.
yeah,
All
it
right.
is still, and it's still under, I think a lot of debate is happening. So for, I think what is important, it is still causing a lot of damage. So we have to fight the damage first.
Yeah. There is a clarification that is required where this attendee is saying that he did not get, you talked about a pamphlet, right? He did not get what was the content on that pamphlet.
Okay, so that's a good question. So I think what we created were small pamphlets which talked about the COVID-19 resources. So where will you get more information, which doctors list or a hospital's list? Because now what happens is not all hospitals are COVID centers. So let's say you're staying in a community and what are the different, where do you get more information from? And what are one or two symptoms? These are the small pamphlets that we had created. Just as a quick help, cheat sheet, if that helps.
Now I'm getting a lot of questions. So why are these variants known as Indian variant? That is one question.
No, they're not Indian variants. They are, I think they are just right now, the names are being pretty arbitrary as the research goes. And only thing is there are 2 or 3 areas where what happens is because of the community and because of the genetic structure, these happen to get diagnosed or seen in India. Now, they could still at the same time be present in South America or South Africa or US, but they are first detected as a case because now there is so much of research happening. So they're not Indian variants. They're not Indian. They are, like I said, there are lots of variants which are present in all over the world. But like I said, it's a variant of interest or a variant of concern. That is very important.
Yeah. And there's a question on the variant again. Do you think that contagious and fatality is inversely proportional, which means that if it is more contagious, that means there'll be less fatality?
No, no.
Okay.
And no, so that's a very good question. So there are 2 parts involved in it. So first is the contagiousness is related more to the viral component, the viral structure. It can move, right? It has that properties to spread. The fatality is related more to how your body is taking it up. For example, if you are a diabetic, or if you are having any immunocompromised status. So a transmission and fatality are two independent equivalents. Sometimes if they play in a way that high transmission, but it could be high fatality as well. And that you had also seen the last wave that happened in India. Every household has at least lost quite a few people. I've seen that
Yeah.
lots of our patients, and it was a Delta variant, which was fast moving around. So that's not the case.
Uh, and there's a question on children, right? So
Yes.
it says that, do you think, what about school? When should we send children to school without vaccine?
I think two parts to it. One part is the schools are very careful right now. The reason I tell you is we don't have a vaccine for children as of now. So second thing is in pediatric population, particularly the behavior. I'm using the word behavior of COVID is not known. Now I know that we have 4 or 5 patients right now in the hospital who are COVID positive there, and they are showing very severe signs of COVID. And they are just like 6-month-old, some are 3-month-old, some are 4 or 5 years. So right now, if you ask me, the behavior of COVID is still not known in children. That's why the schools are very careful. The schools are very careful. Now comes to parents. The parents still have a choice. They can still need not send if they are not, if they wish to. No school can force a child to come. Only thing that the schools are trying to understand, when is it the right time to start the school? Because you'll still have so many children inside. So there is no date given by any state government. Some of the residential schools are starting to think about it, because we did receive queries from some of the residential schools. But everybody has kept it pretty much on the patients and their parents. So, and COVID has not spared children. So everybody has to be cautious.
Okay. Just before the webinar, I was talking to Anand, and he had a scenario that he wanted to ask you. I just unmuted him. Anand, if you can, ask that question that you were referring to in the evening.
Uh, yes, ma'am. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is the fact that every day we get to hear new viruses and their variants like black fungus, delta, and now the new thing has come up, kappa. So living with pandemic will going to be a new normal in future, and how do we stay safe and positive in this uncertain times?
That's a very good question, Anand. I think one thing is we will continue to get the variants. Like we said, it's a behavior of a virus. The virus, just like it's our behavior as a human being, and we know how our behavior is. It's a behavior of the virus. Now, first of all, accepting that there are going to be variations and various states. Sometimes sometimes the next waves would be very insignificant. You will not even know. Like maybe everyone gets vaccinated. People are observing very safe practices, and also herd immunity is increasing. I particularly did not go to herd immunity. I didn't utter the word because I didn't want to sound too technical. So, but if the herd immunity is increasing, this virus severity will keep coming down, and it will just go as a fever. So that is one way. So we, in the future, still it is important that we understand that there will be a wave. Two, we still need to be very sure of vaccination. We get vaccinated. Right now, we are at 6% both doses vaccinated. India is at 6%. One dose vaccinated, India is at 24%. So imagine we have a long way to go. So first of all, we should encourage our people, our household workers, our people who are in our teams to get vaccinated, because that is going to free us up. It is for our selfish interest that we should say more and more people get vaccinated, our country will be better. The second thing, like I said, is workforce management. How do you get back to work? It is going to be a call that we all need to take. Right now, I think it is very important that we observe these practices to ensure that we can move into the future with less anxiety around COVID. So it's going to take some time. Just imagine, like 6% is only the rate, right? It's going to take time before entire India gets vaccinated. Anand, that was a good
Yep.
question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And there's a question on the chat. What vaccines are globally accepted when it comes to travel?
Right now, the mRNA, so I'll give you a little bit of a context, is that, see, when this started, no, every country started coming up with their group of vaccines. So Moderna and Pfizer in the US, Covishield and Covaxin, AstraZeneca, Sputnik in Russia, J&J, and you will have the entire country. But essentially, there are all the vaccines in the world will have fall only in 3 categories. So either you have a messenger RNA or you have, I mean, I won't go too technical about it, but there are 3 subunits or small parts of the what I would say virus that are used to create the vaccine. Now, there is no one global vaccine that is accepted as a name, as a trademark. What I mean is that they will say, and today I won't be able to tell that because I don't know it. Today, they will say that the most acceptable vaccine from a travel standpoint will be all messenger RNA vaccines or a subunit vaccine. I think that is a better way to put it instead of naming a vaccine, because I won't be able to name. And like I said, I just gave that as an example, but that is yet to be seen, that what is the most suitable vaccine as you move into the travel, because it also depends on the country into which you are going. So if that answers your question.
And we just have time for one more question. What is your best estimate for how long COVID-19 will be eradicated?
I would like to look at it that I would not like to say that I have a number in mind. Frankly speaking, I don't. I'm also not sure whether it will be eradicated. Influenza never got eradicated. Influenza still comes in. Like dengue virus never got eradicated. Only thing is, what will happen is it will become very small. It will become very insignificant. And it will not cause this level of damage or deaths. But that is yet to be seen. The virus has to pass through multiple stages till the time it happens. And now I think it is just beginning to start. But like I said, I would not like to give any date, and I don't know the date because it's not going to happen that there would be a complete eradication.
All right. Yeah. So someone is saying TB never got eradicated, but probably we'll have more control over the disease, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yes. So Dr. Deepa, we are out of time, and there are lots of other questions also coming in. I would encourage people to connect with Dr. Bide on LinkedIn and ask her the questions online, offline, as you would wish to. Yeah, and right now, if Deepa, you can stop sharing your screen so that we can see you a little better. And I will now invite our president, Jacob, to hand over the small token of appreciation to Deepa. Deepa, if you can stop sharing, I will try to share my screen again.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, yeah.
So let me see whether I'm still not able to share the screen. Sunil, if you can give me the sharing rights.
Yeah, I can hear you, Priya. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you, Jacob. For the vote of thanks, I'm not able to share my screen, Sunil.
So Dr. Bide, thank you very much for this. Yeah, somebody is talking.
Sunil, be on mute, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Bide. It has been a pleasure listening to you for the last hour and a half, and we didn't even realize it is 8:30 in the evening on a Saturday evening. And first of all, I was just wondering, I heard you saying that you're from Hyderabad. Or
Yeah.
you're a Mumbaiker, right?
I'm a Mumbai. I'm a Mumbaikar, I'm a Hyderabadkar.
Okay. And your husband also is a doctor, right?
Yes, he's from Delhi.
You are a pediatrician, and
Both of
what
us.
is yeah,
Both of
both
us are
you.
pediatricians.
Both. Okay. So thank you very much. It has been a wonderful eye opener for all of us while we heard you.
180, 184.
Sunil, you
Sunil,
have to mute
you may
yourself.
have to mute yourself, Sunil. So what you see in front of you, doctor, is the certificate of appreciation. That is the least we can do, and that is the most
you.
that we can do, because
No,
that is the
thank
only
you.
thing we
Thank
can
you.
do.
No, thank you so much.
This is a initiative from us. Yeah, you are also a PMP. That is a very nice thing to know. Not many doctors are PMPs, but then you make use of PMP in your work environment. That is a great thing. I like to understand that there are 102 participants right now. How many are actually from PMI fraternity? And if anybody is interested, a lot of trainings that is happening from PMI Mumbai chapter. Right now, while I'm talking, the PMP training itself is going on. And at the end of the month, we will be having the DASSM training, that is Discipline Agile Senior Scrum Master. So if anybody is interested, please do check the website or call us up and find out more about all these trainings that is happening. So good things happen when you are with PMI Mumbai chapter. With a lot of social initiatives happening. We'll be hearing more of that from Saksham Samarth. And thank you very much, Doctor. Once again, if nobody has any more questions, and I again repeat, and I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying it, but it was a very informative discussion and talk that we had. And some of the questions that were put to you also were very important, especially. Yeah. So thank you very much, ma'am. Any further points that you have, ma'am, before we close the session?
No, I just wanted to encourage everybody who is attending the webinar to help other people, give this information and help them with authentic information. That will really help our country understand where we are and help each other. That's all.
Yeah, very good. This PDU claim code that you see on the screen, that is the one that you need to apply for in case you want to make use of. Does it come by email also, Priya?
Yes. So I will give the details. If you are done, I will help them to understand how we will go ahead with this.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining in on a Saturday evening. So go ahead and enjoy the evening. Of course, you can't do that because of COVID.
Yes.
Have a great day. Good night.
And,
thank you.
Yeah, and before we sign off, we just hold on for a few minutes. Don't forget to claim your PDUs. 2 PDUs with a PDU claim over here. A PDU mailer will be sent to you by PMI Mumbai chapter, so you can take advantage of that. Please scan the QR code and let us know about your feedback. I have, provided the link on the chat window as well. And if you're excited and you like this webinar and you want to join our upcoming webinars and events, write to our membership, become our member. The email ID is also there on the chat window, membership@PMI Mumbai chapter.org. With this, thank you everyone for joining.
Are we taking a picture?
Yes, we should take one. So, Sunil, will you be able to take a picture, please? Will take, I don't know.
Only 3 of us.
Only 3 of us are there.
No,
so as
ask everyone to
discussion.
come online. Manish and everybody else.
Yeah, please.
We are only 3 of us.
Try to stop sharing my screen while.
I am with the 2 ladies. That's all.
So Manish, please be on, and Rahul also. I missed Rahul is gone.
See, the idea is that this should be the record for our program that we had. So we should have pictures, no? So that's the only thing that we can have.
Yeah. So Manish, are you switching on your camera? No one is switching on.
I'm just trying to do it. Yeah.
Manish will be struggling there.
Yeah.
What about people from Kutch Sangathan?
Yes, Rahul was there as a panelist, is gone now. So, Sunil, you can stop the recording. Channels for more such exciting webinars and discussions.